Hello, friends, and thank you for joining ERPA's webinar today, where we plan to provide tips and tricks for PeopleSoft Test Framework and discuss how to leverage this powerful tool to streamline your PeopleSoft testing processes, improve accuracy, and save time. A couple of housekeeping items before we jump into the agenda. All of your microphones have been muted for this session. But the chat and the question feature, if you look at the top right-hand side of your interface, that chat and the question feature are both available for you to engage with us. And I will personally be monitoring it for any questions you type in throughout our hour today. Following today's discussion, a very brief survey is going to hit your inbox. And we'd be grateful if you would take about 45 seconds to complete it for us. And then finally, links to the recording and the slide deck will be emailed to you in a few business days for you to review the content yourself or for you to send it to someone else who might benefit from it. Let me walk through the agenda. Sneha, if you would advance to the agenda slide. So we have a great packed agenda, and Sneha is our featured presenter today. She's going to introduce herself in just a moment. I'm going to tell you a little bit about ERPA on the next slide, but the agenda covers PeopleSoft Test Framework. We're going to give an introduction, challenges, and outcome. We're also going to talk about some of the capabilities and limitations of PTF as it is known. We'll talk about script development methodology, accelerators, and ERPA's TAP, which is our proprietary bolt-on that sits on top of PeopleSoft Test Framework. Sneha is going to tell you all about it, as well as testing services. Then we'll get to the Q&A, but again, we'll be monitoring that question feature and the chat feature here in our interface on a regular basis and surfacing those questions to Sneha live in real time as you bring them to our attention. But if we have any remaining ones we didn't have time to get to throughout the course of our presentation, we will get to those at the end during our Q&A session. A little bit about ERPA now. We support customers throughout their entire life cycle on PeopleSoft. As you can see on this slide, a myriad of services, including managed services, modernizing with the cloud, fluid and other deployments and implementations, path to SaaS, SaaS-like Workday, projects that require more technical expertise perhaps than you have in-house, and much more. Nearly anything is possible. And you can see that our 25 years of service delivery excellence spans industries and sectors, such as education, government, commercial, healthcare, and nonprofit, and much more. We would love to chat with any of you who might have needs or questions about what ERPA offers, and we would welcome a chance to help you in your PeopleSoft journey. But today is all about PeopleSoft Test Framework. And now it's my privilege to turn it over to Sneha to introduce herself and to begin discussing our topic today. Welcome, Sneha.
Thank you, Jeff. Hello, everybody. Thanks for joining today's session. I'm Sneha Latapoli. I've been with ERPA for the past 4 years. I come in with 9+ years of experience using PeopleSoft Test Framework for PTF. I manage all testing projects that come our way, manual or automation, but today's topic will be PeopleSoft Test Framework. Let's see the introduction, challenges, and outcomes of PeopleSoft Test Framework. PTF is an automation tool delivered as part of PeopleSoft application that can help in developing test scripts for different business processes across all pillars that eventually reduces overall testing efforts. PTF works by replicating the actions of a single user executing functional tests against the PeopleSoft browser-based application. Users can record manual test procedures and save them within the framework. Later, after an application upgrade or patch, those tests can be executed against the application to validate whether the application still behaves as expected. Test assets, in PTF terminology, tests and test cases are stored in your database as app designer objects. As a result, these test assets are PeopleTools managed objects, which can be managed along with other PeopleTools managed objects through PeopleSoft Lifecycle Management. It has no additional licensing cost required. PTF is a record and playback tool that is used primarily for functional testing. PTF does understand PeopleSoft metadata, so the data can be defined using other data within the same system. During customizations and upgrades, changes are made to, among other elements, application menus, components, pages, records, and fields as well. Tests that were developed prior to these changes may fail when executed against a new application. For example, if a field is deleted, moved to another page, or renamed, any steps that reference the fields will fail also. These test developers must identify and update every step in each test that is affected by the change. To help with this, PTF delivers tools like test maintenance report, coverage reports, and usage monitor as well. Like I mentioned, PTF is a functional testing tool. We'll talk more about it in the next slides. But now let's take a quick look at some of the key challenges. Some of the most common challenges in testing that customers observed over the years was that with patches being delivered multiple times a year, it became very difficult to facilitate intensive test cycles. With a lot of customers going for selective adoption, it was becoming a tedious task to maintain a testing team and planning a testing activity. Using PTF for functional testing, we can address both these issues as PTF test scripts, once created, can help with repetitive testing, regression testing with minimal to no changes to the scripts. Also, now let us see some outcomes that we have observed. And these were made by customers and our in-house PTF implementation team with using PTF regularly. Time, quality, and cost are the variables calculated for any testing effort. We observed that the testing effort or schedule can be reduced by up to 70%. We have also observed that this was the case with most of our customers. Automatically, the cost and time spent on regression testing can be reduced using PTF as a tool for validating your functional testing. Let us now look at some PTF's capabilities and limitations. With PTF, we can develop tests for both standalone transactions and end-to-end business process testing. Standalone transactions are called individual tests within PTF, and end-to-end business process testing are called shell tests. Creating a requisition, approving a requisition, creating a journal entry, editing it, adding a person, updating a job data, or enrolling in benefits. This is an HCM example. And then searching for classes, enrolling in classes, dropping a class. Again, all these examples are for campus solution. So you can use PTF for all different pillars. And these are just very few examples of individual tasks. When you string more than one individual test in a sequential order to execute in a single click, then you can create a shell test. For example, you can create a requisition, save that requisition into a variable, then pass it into another script to approve that requisition, budget check it, PO auto source it, so on and so forth. Similarly, adding a person, updating their job data, adding a life event for that employee, and enrolling them in benefits is an example for HCM. Searching for a class, enrolling in a class, dropping a class, updating a class, swapping classes, all these are examples for campus solution. PTF also adds a good value when it comes to reusing the developed test scripts. You can introduce global variables within the shell test and the test can run with the values entered for the variables. These are advanced features where you can check for specific data values, statuses, approvals, amongst many others. PTF can handle testing within the PeopleSoft application. Any third-party integration can be tested once the data is available within the PeopleSoft system. It is very important to understand that PTF wasn't designed to validate certain types of information. For example, image appearances and relative position of data and online objects. PTF is a functional test tool rather than a user interface or browser testing tool. PTF cannot be a load testing tool. It just replicates the experience of a single user running the application. PTF cannot replicate certain types of user actions, for example, drag and drop mouse actions. PTF also does not recognize or validate certain types of objects you might find in third-party or external applications, such as Flash or Flex objects, data displayed in HTML regions, and so on. PTF is designed to validate objects within the PeopleSoft application. At this point in time, I would like everybody to know that we do have a chat option and a question option. If you have any questions, please feel free to use that and let us know if you have questions. We will take small breaks in between to see and understand if you have questions and answer them in a sequential order. Moving on. The next thing we'll see here is the PTF script development methodology. Like any software project, PTF project also follows an SDLC flow. The different phases involved are initial planning, requirement gathering, configuration and development, testing and delivery, and maintenance. Within the planning phase, we have an official project kickoff discussion, where we discuss the timelines, resources, logistics of the project, so on and so forth. We then identify the necessary requirements like business areas in consideration for testing, identify if there are any customizations or system requirements, and finalize the test scenarios. Once the scenarios have been identified, the PTF team will meet module-specific SMEs to understand their processes, data sets, and finalize the scope for development. The PTF team then creates a master list. This is like a one-stop shop for all the scripts that we are developing for PTF with all the business processes and start developing test scripts using PTF. The master list will be updated and maintained regularly. Using the test plan and data sets, developed test scripts will then be tested and delivered to the SMEs who can validate the test results and sign off on the scripts. A thorough training with an expert trainer is then provided to the necessary team. Documentation, if any, will be then provided along with test cycle reports for validation or audit purposes. Maintenance is an ongoing effort where test script maintenance, like upgrading test scripts, re-executing test scripts, taking timely backup, migrations, and refreshes are all taken care of. Training on maintenance and administration will be provided. At this point in time, I just want to see if we have any questions so far. Jeff, any questions?
I'm not seeing anything yet. The chat feature and the question feature for all of our guests, it is up in the upper right-hand corner of your interface. And yeah, feel free to jump in with any questions that you have. Sneha's ready to answer those, and I'll monitor it and bring it to her attention when you put them in.
Thank you. Moving on. We're now going to see a quick demo of the PTF tool, see how the scripts are listed, how the scripts look like when a PTF script is recorded. So let's get into the demo. What you see on the screen right now is the PeopleSoft Test Framework sign-on window. We are using PeopleTools 85911. This is the FSCM instance. You will have fields for the database name, the server port, node ID, user ID, and password. The user ID and password will remain the same as your PeopleSoft application. You're going to key in the password for the user ID and click OK. It's going to open the PeopleSoft Test Framework window for us now. So this is the PeopleSoft tool. We can ignore this message here. What you see on the left-hand side is a repository of folders of all the test scripts. This is a library of tests that we have for each module in the financial and supply chain. You'll have similar ones for HCM and campus as well. We're going to see quick examples here today. For that, let us open one of the folders here. So we're opening the accounts payable folder. Within that, we have two different children folder again, one individual test and one shell test. Individual tests are any standalone transactions. So anything like adding a voucher, posting a voucher are all individual transactions, and a shell test where you have an end-to-end voucher process. For today's demo, we're going to look at one individual test here, which is entering a regular voucher. We do have a naming convention. So because we have a restriction on how many characters we can have on the test name, we do name it a certain way. What you see on the screen right now is a recorded PTF test script. Like I said, PTF is a record and playback tool. So this script is being recorded against the FSCM instance. It's a demo FSCM instance. And every value that you key in are entered in the value section. They are the data sets for the test script. We're just scrolling down and seeing the whole script. And that's the total script for us. And now let's take a quick look at the data values that we have entered here. We do have a first test case where the business unit is US002. We have different data sets like vendor name, account ID, and eventually when the test is completed, you will also capture the voucher ID, which is unique to that particular test run. It is captured in a variable. So every time you run this test, it's going to create a new voucher ID for us. And within each test, you can have multiple test cases. It's pretty much the same test that's being executed, again, different sets of data. If you observe in this second test case, we are using US001 as the business unit instead of US002 and as in the previous case. And most of the data sets remain the same, but again, depending on this scenario, you can always create new ones. We can create new test cases by just replicating them or creating a new one from scratch or also deleting a current test case. Let us now take a quick look at the test comments. So you can add test level comments to your test script. We at ERPA usually use it to give clear information to anybody who wants to validate this test script. And you can also have step level information. For example, if you need a unique value to be entered every time you run a test, you want to make sure that is a part of this comment section. Now, for you to be able to run a test, you will have to see the logs as well, because every time a test is executed, a log is generated. A log is pretty much just telling you a step-by-step execution process of your test script. We're going to look at one of those examples now. Giving it a second for it to open up the log here. And this log is basically an XML file. You can download it. It's not very user-friendly, but we'll talk more about it in the upcoming slides. So this is how the log looks like. For example, who did you log in as to perform this transaction? What was the data that was entered? If there are any screenshots that are associated to the test script, all that kind of information will be shown in the test log. It will also give you a test result, date and timestamp of when the test was executed, what was your system information at the point in time when this particular script was executed. If you look here, this was the data that was saved. So that's the voucher ID that was created. How about we look at some screenshots now? So we do take some screenshots just to make sure they're available for validation purposes. If somebody is not able to look at the script end to end while it's being executed, you can always come back and review the screenshots as well. So you can add as many screenshots as you want. And we also have a shell test now that we would like to review with you guys. Shell test, like I said, is basically multiple individual transactions or test script strung together in a sequential order in the order that you want to execute it. Like, let's say you want to create a voucher first, then budget check that voucher. In that case, you make sure they're sequentially ordered, and then you add in all the variables that you want to use for that particular test. So within the shell test, the values are going to be global. So this is a snippet of the shell test. If you observe row 16 and row 21, these are those rows where you have the tests introduced into the shell test. And the other fields that you see are straightforward data sets that are being entered. And these data sets are just global to this shell test. If you run the individual test by itself, then it will go by the data that is in the individual test. So you can keep changing the data sets as required. You will have to run these tests as a person who can log into the system and run the test for you. These are called execution options. We will talk about in a couple of seconds from now. These execution options are very important. And what you see on the screen right now is a green forward arrow. This is basically the run button that you click on when you want to execute the PTF test script. Let us now look at the execution options. Like I said, PTF is a record and playback tool. It is a user-centric tool, so you need to insert user IDs to make sure you use the right user to run a particular test so that they have the right permissions, security access, so on and so forth. You can always export execution options out and also import new ones into the system. For any execution option to be created, you have to give it a name. So make sure it is named appropriately. Make sure there is data entered for every execution option. For example, the URL which is basically the PeopleSoft application that you're trying to connect to run this particular script against. The browser, by default, it is Chrome. Currently, it used to be IE when Microsoft supported it, but now it is Chrome. And you can always switch between browsers. The available browsers are on the screen right now. Then you go ahead and enter the user ID and password. The password is encrypted for security purposes, and they can be changed whenever required. If you want to enter a process server detail, you can select that. The date and time format is also entered here. You can select the rest of the options like skip language, form factor. Form factor started coming up. That is the skip language right there. So it skips the basic checking box of the yes option for English. Form factor is an option that is available for fluid pages. So depending on what you want to use, you can select that as well. With that, we now complete the presentation for PTF. Do we have any questions at this point, Jeff?
So, Sneha, we had one question come in, and I reached deep into my vast PeopleSoft knowledge to answer it. It was about the webinar recording and the slides, and would they be made available? So, for everybody to know, yes, in a few business days, you'll receive an email with a link to the webinar recording and this great presentation, as well as the slide deck. So, rest assured, you will get all of that information in a few business days. And that's the only question that's come in so far, Sneha.
Thank you, Jeff. You're awesome. ERPA's test automation platform, which is also called as TAP. Test automation platform, also called TAP, is ERPA's bolt-on that was designed and developed to address the most reported limitations of PTF. Like any tool, PTF also comes with some limitations that we try to address. And here, TAP elevates the customer's experience with PTF as it adds value to the existing automation tool. Some of the limitations of PTF and their corresponding TAP enhancements will be discussed now. PTF is a tool that is technical, and anyone who wants to use it needs to be trained on the tool, as there are a lot of concepts, options, terminologies, and features that enhance user experience. Only when a user is trained will they be able to update an existing test or execute tests. As TAP is available on your PeopleSoft application, PIA, and like other delivered PeopleSoft pages, TAP pages have the same look and feel. It is easier to use the TAP feature to modify existing tests and execute tests. What you see on the screen right now is a snippet or a screenshot of the TAP tool. Rest assured, what you see is a fluid homepage, but we also have an equivalent classic homepage version of the TAP solution. Test reports also play an important role in the life cycle of testing. Within PTF, every time a test is executed, a test log is generated in an XML format that is not very user-friendly and requires a lot of users' time to interpret the results for each of the test scripts. TAB delivers a test cycle report for every test executed with an overall status of the test, module level details, and user level details. It will show you exactly who executed the test, when the test was executed, what was the test result, along with script details and screenshots. These reports can then be downloaded into a PDF copy and archived for validation or auditing purposes. PTF does not have a one-stop shop dashboard for reporting. A manager or lead responsible for the testing activities will need to compile key testing results and data for their status meetings. TAP's reporting dashboard makes the managers or leads' job easier as it provides dynamic, real-time status of tests with different drill-down capabilities and filters. This feature is very user-friendly and can be customized by the user. TAB has 4 different features. One, create or modify shelters, PTF execution, test cycle reports, and PTF dashboards. You can create a shell test by stringing individual tests in a sequential order to execute with one-click execution. You can also modify an existing shell test that is available within PTF with data values and execution options. Once changes are saved or a new shell test is created, you can execute the shell test with a single click. All individual tests also can be executed using PTF execution feature. Once the execution is complete, one can view the test cycle reports. These reports are user-friendly and can be downloaded, as I just mentioned. Once all the tests in a test cycle are executed, we can review the PTF dashboard and draw conclusions on the testing cycle. TAP integrates with PTF in a seamless fashion. With that, we are now going to take a quick look at TAP demo. So let's get ready for the demo. What you see on the screen right now is an FSCM demo instance. We are logging into the PeopleSoft system. And this is a Fluid homepage, so we are on Fluid already. We are going to navigate to the TAP homepage. This is exactly as you saw in the screenshot. We have 4 different features here. One, create, modify shelters, where you're allowed to create or modify shelters. You can execute PTF scripts using the PTF execution option. Review the test cycle reports using the test cycle report feature, where you can download them. And finally, you can look at the dashboards to review a test cycle analysis. Let us now quickly take a look at the create modify shell test. This is like any other PeopleSoft page. So it's going to be pretty easy for you to understand the fields. We are trying to open an existing shell test, and we'll also try to edit it, save it, and see how it goes. We're just looking for one shell test here. Let's search for it. So this is the pre-recorded shell test that is available. So this is basically available in the PTF tool currently. So this pretty much replicates what you see on the PTF tool itself. We are going to try and add a new test case here. This is just a warning message to make sure you're creating a new test case. Let's go ahead and add a new test case. So the first thing you're going to do is give your test case a name. And you can update or change data sets within the test case, like I mentioned during the PTF demo as well. So we're just deleting it, so we don't want to mess with the script itself, but you can create and delete test cases for the shell test as well. Now we're going to go ahead and create a new shell test that we can execute for today's demo, where we're going to execute the PTF test script using TAP. So the shell test name is going to be ERPA underscore TAP underscore demo, but you can create any test name. Just give it a test name that is 30 characters long. Give it a description, select the module or the folder in which you want your test to reside in, and start building or putting together the building blocks of your shell test. We're firstly selecting the execution option or the user ID that we want to use for running this test. Then we start introducing the test scripts itself into the shell test. Let's look for the test that we want to use. Entering a regular voucher. That's exactly what we discussed as part of the test script in the PTF demo as well. So we did add one test. We're going to add some more. So you just select the test as a type and execution as the action, which implies that you're trying to execute a test. So action and type. The second test we are adding here is the budget check. And you also select the test name here. And make sure you save your test script. So now we were able to create a shell test and also modify it. Now let's go ahead and execute one of those tests. For execution is going to be pretty straightforward with the fields. You just select the folder, parent folder where your script resides in, and then you select the test name. So you can use the prompt to select the test. So we're just going to do ERPA tab demo, then select the test case name and the user ID and password. So don't mistake the user ID and password for the execution option. User ID and password here are for you to log into PTF, and then you select the execution option that you will use to run the test. The rest of the field, the server details and PTF executable path are already keyed in for you, so you don't have to make any updates on that. And then you go ahead and click on the generate batch. So this one is going to download an executable file onto your local machine. And before you go ahead and run that executable file, you'll want to make sure all your browsers, the PTF tool itself, are closed out so it does not interfere with the test execution. You just have to come here and double click on it and run the script. Just click on more info and do run anyway, sorry, run anyway. And then it automatically starts the PTF tool for you and starts executing the script for you. Once you see a yellow message box pop up on the right corner side of the screen, which is going to happen in the next couple of seconds while it's connecting us to the browser, See, there you go. There's a yellow message box. That's a yellow message box on the top right corner, guys. That's where you see step-by-step execution of the test script. And now what it's going to do is automatically open the browser for us, hook us to the URL that we have entered as part of the execution options, use the execution options to log into the system using the user ID and password, and run the test for us. And whatever is happening on the screen right now is without any intervention. So none of us are doing anything with the keyboards, mouses, no clicks. All this is automated. So it's entering in the key values that were entered as part of the test script. So it does notice all the fields and the respective values that need to go in the fields, enter that for us, and save the transaction for us eventually. And once the transaction is saved, you will also observe that the voucher ID, which is now next, will be updated to a number, a numeric, and it does capture that voucher ID into a variable. And that variable will or can be used in the future test depending on how you want to use that value. So every time you run the test, it does generate a new voucher ID, and that way your test is going to be dynamic and it will pass on live data from one script to the other. The flow is going to be seamless. Now we're going to do the second part of the test, which is budget checking. So create a run control. If it already exists, it'll pick it up. So you don't have to worry about that as well. We're going to key in some values. And we're going to run the process here. So interestingly, one of PTF's advanced features is to run the process. If you know PeopleSoft well, you have to click on the refresh button on the process monitor till it reaches a certain status. With PTF, you can automate that as well. If your run status is expected to be a success, you can set it to be a success and it will automatically run the script till it reaches the success status. So we're just going to validate that the script ran to a success. The run status is success. The distribution status was posted. We're going to take a quick look at the message log here. Everything looks good. And automatically save the test for us so that we can review the logs after this, right? So on the top right corner, you see the test end. We're just waiting for the log to be saved. So once that's done, we can go and look at the report. Give it a couple of seconds for the test to end. There we go. The test ended. Let's see if the test was successful. So now going back to TAP, we're going to review the test logs or the test cycle report. So you just navigate to the test cycle report, enter the date, enter the module, enter the test name. Again, all these are values that you can take from prompt. You can select a particular log result if you're confident about what the log is going to look like. It does have one log ID. That means there was the log that was generated. There are three different types of reports. The first one being summary report. It pretty much just gives you basic information, and you can always download this into a PDF as well. It gives you who ran the test, what is the date and timestamp, was the test result a pass or fail. Very straightforward. The next one is the detailed report. This is the most favorite report for our customers, where you can see a detailed explanation on the log along with screenshots, the data that's been entered, and the test result on the very top of the page. And this report also can be downloaded. You can add as many screenshots as you would like. So that looks good. And the test did end and it ran to a pass. Download this as well. And then we have one last report, which is the log report. Log report is basically a replica of the PTF generated XML file. It just basically replicates that exact same log. So you can view this one from TAP and PTF as well. Now let us quickly take a look at the PTF dashboards. And that is one of the last features we have today. So this is your dashboard. You can select the different values that you want to see for example, you want to select the modules, how many tests were executed, how many passed, how many failed, how many ran into a warning. So they're color coded. You know exactly how these tests were executed. So depending on the test results, you know how many, you know the numbers. So it's easier for your lead or manager to report these numbers in a meeting. So it makes it easier for them and for anybody to understand as well. So we're pretty much just playing around with the tool here, and you can use different users as well. And you will also see a list of all the tests that were executed. So depending on your search, it gives you a list of the tests and their corresponding results and date time stamps. There are different types of reports that you can generate. There's a line bar, there is different kinds of graphical representations of the same dashboard. And that is pretty much the PTF dashboard for us. And then we head into the most interesting topic, that is the testing services that ERPA provides for PTF. These are the different packages we have for PTF testing services. We have a starter package, standard package, and a maintenance package. A starter package is pretty straightforward. It helps you get started with PTF. I have a complete slide right after this one to discuss the starter package in more detail, so I'll get to that. But a standard package is like a time and material project where you decide on how many scripts you want us to execute, how many pillars you have, make that decision, and then we do an official kickoff. We help you configure PTF, develop and deliver the PTF scripts, walk through your SMEs or whoever is going to be responsible for the PTF test scripts, give them a walkthrough, make sure they're signing off on the scripts, review any documentation, provide you with PTF 101 training and advanced training. The advanced training is basically giving you a hands-on experience. You'll have a lot of manuals and you can actually record and playback tools yourself. We also create and maintain the PTF master list for you and show you how that can be maintained in the long run. We also give you a lot of documentation that will help you with your journey using PTF, like the migration, post, refresh checklist, how Oracle does certain things and what are their recommendations, the best practices, so on and so forth. Um, a maintenance package is basically what sits on top of standard package. It includes everything that the standard does, but more. The maintenance package is like an yearly subscription to our services where we can maintain your test scripts yearly, run the test script whenever you need us to, whenever you whenever you apply a patch. If you go ahead and decide to do a PUM update, then we go in and say, hey, you've applied a PUM, so let us test your scripts and make sure everything looks okay to you. And we also help you take regular backups of test repositories so that you don't miss any of the scripts or you don't lose the scripts in the long run whenever there's a refresh that happens. Let us now discuss the starter package in more detail. The most interesting part here is this was one of those concepts that we came up with to let our customers decide if PTF is worth their time and money. So we help you get started with PTF in 4 weeks. Like I said, we give you that initial push to see if you would like to start your test automation journey within 4 weeks. We help you understand what the PTF tool is, what it can do, what it cannot, and we'll also help you determine if you are ready to invest in PTF for the long run. With this package, you also receive a PTF 101 training with expert help, along with 30 fully developed test scripts. So we do come up with just 30 scripts because that's what we can do in 4 weeks, along with a lot of other things that we already do in the 4 weeks for you. If you want to know more about this Get Started package, please feel free to reach out to us at solutions@erpa.com to discuss further. The team will be more than glad to assist you understand and make that decision for you. Jeff, I'm going to turn it back to you and see if you have any questions.
Hey, Sneha. So great job. No, there are no unanswered questions in the chat or the question feature. You did a fantastic job, I think, of covering all of the all of the information. I also popped in another email in the chat in case questions surface later on. They can either email you at the solutions@erpa.com, or they can send an email to me at info@erpa.com, and I can send them to the right person. So lots of ways to be in touch with us. I don't see any other chats or questions coming in at the moment. Sneha, you've been doing this for a really long time, and you know your stuff so well, and I love especially your confidence in inviting the questions. Often, webinar presenters are most anxious about any questions that might come in, but I love your confidence because you know this subject matter so well. You basically welcome any challenging questions that come in related to PTF, and with bold confidence, I think you would have any answer that anybody would seek. So thank you for your presentation. I don't see anything coming in yet, so I think I'm gonna go ahead and move to wrapping up and some housekeeping items. And thank you, Sneha, for a great presentation, and your team for working with you on putting together some of this information. Thanks to those of you who joined us. Really appreciate that. I'm seeing some responses here, some claps and some thank yous here popping up in our window. All of you who joined us today, thank you. We hope you found this discussion helpful. Again, you will receive an email in a few business days with links to the recording and the slides, but you'll receive an email survey right after the conclusion of this webinar, and we would be ever grateful if you would mind answering those questions for us. Take you about 45 seconds to answer those questions, and we would be extremely thankful if you would do so. Options to include screenshots. So Sneha, I do have one question that has come in the report. It says, do we have any options to include screenshots in the report?
We do. So within PTF, there is an option to include screenshots, and with that, when you introduce screenshots into your PTF test script, they will automatically come up in the test report, and it will come up in the detailed test cycle report only, though.
Cool. Cool. Great question. And like I said, bold confidence to answer any of your questions. Again, great job, Sneha. And again, thanks to everybody who joined. Again, you'll get an email survey right after the conclusion of this webinar. You'll get an email in a few business days with links to the recording and to the slide deck. And Sneha, I think that's it for now. For everybody else, look for more webinars to come on a variety of topics of interest for those who use PeopleSoft. In the meantime, thank you, and happy November to everybody, and I hope you have a great rest of your day. Thanks for joining us today. And thank you, Sneha. Great job.
Thank you, everyone.